Hey guys, it's Michael. I have a quick update for you on the second stimulus check and second stimulus package. We have very important news to go over, and in today's video, we're first going to cover how Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer cited the GDP report that came out yesterday as both evidence that earlier federal stimulus worked very well and that Congress needs to send out more relief. After that, we're going to go over what Senator John Barrasso, who is the third-ranking member of his party, said about the status of the second stimulus package, where he sees it going, and when he believes a bill will pass. And finally, at the end of the video, we're going to go over how yesterday the interviews and discussions between Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin didn't go well at all, and that left a lot of people questioning whether or not they would be able to come to an agreement on a second stimulus bill after the election. So we're going to go over exactly what both sides said about this and how they still believe we will be able to come to an agreement after the election, and also what President Trump said as well. We're going to go over all of this and a couple more things. Before we get started, it would really mean a lot if you could like the video down below and subscribe to my channel. It currently says about 50% of you watching are not subscribed, so if you'd like to stay up to date on what is going on, well then please be sure to subscribe. So, the third quarter GDP report was released yesterday on Thursday with record numbers with a 33.1% growth rate, and this may only divide the Republicans and the Democrats even more on the second stimulus package, because the Trump administration and congressional Democrats quickly came out and said that the reason it did so well is because of all of the stimulus measures that have been passed and how they don't need to pass a huge bill again. Republicans promoted the GDP data as evidence that their economic plan has worked and things are going well right now. Senator John Barrasso, a Wyoming Republican and the third-ranking member in his party, said yesterday in a statement that Republican policies have given the U.S. a strong foundation, and together we're moving forward. Barrasso goes on to say how Senate Republicans have three priorities right now. The first is getting people to work, the second is getting kids back to school safely, and the third is putting the disease behind them. They said that is the main goal right now of the Senate Republicans. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer came out and cited the GDP report as both evidence that previous stimulus, as part of the CARES Act, that really well to help the economy get the numbers and get where we are right now, but he also said that it's a signal that we need more relief right now. Chuck Schumer explained how these numbers mask the reality that 23 million Americans remain on unemployment and tens of thousands of small businesses have already gone under. He goes on to say how our nation still has a long way to go before we can overcome this public health crisis and the virus, and before we ultimately fully recover. He said how much more needs to be done and they need to get another bill passed right after the election. And finally, yesterday, Steven Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi, they traded blame and had a heated back and forth discussion about the second stimulus check and second stimulus package. We talked about this briefly in a video earlier today, but the main question is right now is that whether or not the breakup between Steven Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi would be final, or whether or not they would still be able to come back together, sit at the negotiating table, and come to an agreement during Congress's lame duck session after the election on November 3rd. Good news is, though, is that both parties, both Nancy Pelosi and President Trump, came out yesterday and spoke on this, and they said that they both hope to get a bill passed as soon as the election is over, but they had different views on how this is going to actually play out. Addressing reporters at her weekly news conference yesterday on Thursday, Nancy Pelosi expressed optimism that former Vice President Joe Biden will win the election 5 days from now, and Pelosi also said that she would not accept a small bill with the idea of coming back for more stimulus if Joe Biden is elected president. She goes on to say that we're not talking about the size of the bill, we're talking quality. We're not going to just take a small bill because that's what Republicans want. And Pelosi said that ultimately she wants a bill passed for two reasons. The first and foremost is that the American people need more help. She said there's really a need for it right now, and that the second reason is that we have plenty of work to do in the Joe Biden administration if he wins the election, so we want to have as clean a slate as possible going into January. Trump, meanwhile, he also came out and spoke on this yesterday as well. And in an interview on a podcast released yesterday on Thursday, he explained that the administration would reach a stimulus deal after the election and predicted that Republicans will retake the House and that he would win the presidential election as well. He said that once we get past this election, we're going to pass a massive stimulus bill. It may be bipartisan, it may not have to be, depending on who is in control of the House. But he said right after the election, we'll get it one way or another. So ultimately, that's good news. Both Nancy Pelosi and President Trump are saying we're going to see a second stimulus bill after the election. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that if President Trump doesn't win, he might hold back and not want to pass a bill until Joe Biden comes into office, and Joe Biden would then have to pass it. So we'll just have to keep an eye on what happens there. If they both stick to their words that either way they want to get a bill passed after the election. But ultimately, that's what's going on right now with the second stimulus check and second stimulus package. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to get your 2 free stocks valued up to $1,600 when you download the Webull investing app using the link down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.